Welcome to the Hope Woven Dress Sew Along. Take your time, follow along. Feel free to stop, start and replay any steps as needed. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. We're here to help. Now let's have a look at the helpful hints. Before you start cutting, take note of your fabric's print direction. It'll make all the difference in the final look. When sewing, remember that there's a 1 cm seam allowance for most seams and 6 mm seam allowances on curves, so check your pattern's dashed lines for guidance there. Before you get started constructing your dress, make sure to fuse your neck facings. So we've used the block fusing method here, and there's a few notes to help you get started. What it involves is cutting out a block of fabric and the fusing the same size, and then cutting out your pattern piece from that fused block. Now we're up to the fun part, constructing your Hope Woven dress. With right sides together, sew the front armhole to the front sleeve, matching the notches as you sew. And just a friendly reminder, you're using a 1 cm seam allowance to start with. Go ahead and neaten the seams with an overlocker or a zigzag stitch. Please note that we have skipped this step for visibility, but you can follow the construction sheet as written. We've gone to the next step, where we sew the back seams together and we stitch from the waist up to the point where it indicates the back neck split. And then we press the seams open. With right sides together, we make the button loop by folding the bias strip in half lengthways, and we stitch along the length of the strip. Now this step you need to be a little bit patient because it's a little bit fiddly. So we turn out the loop to the right side using a loop turner or a safety pin. You can just clip off that excess bit of fabric. Now we want to make a loop shape and sew it to the back neck. The loop will face inward at this stage, but just trust the process. Use the markings on the pattern to sew the button loop in place. So as you can see, the loop faces inwards and then it will face outwards when the facing is sewn on and it's turned to the right side. Now take your front and back neck facings, pin them at the shoulder seams and then sew. Then sew the lower centre back facing seams together. And press your seams open. Finish the outside edge of the neck facing with an overlocker. If you haven't already, take the time to attach the back armhole to the back sleeve. Finish the seam with a zigzag stitch or overlocker. With right sides together, pin the neck facing to the neck. Make sure to align the shoulder seams, take your time and use lots of pins. Be sure to tuck in the button loop to avoid it being caught in your stitching. With right sides together, sew the neck facing to the neck, making sure that you're matching up shoulder seams. A reminder that there's a 6mm seam allowance on curves. Turn to the right side and understitch close to the seam on the side of the facing. With right sides together, pin and sew the split on the back body to the split of the facing. Sew from the neck down to the notch and place a pin at the junction. Be sure to do a back stitch at the start and end of your sewing to secure the stitch. Then repeat on the opposite side. Clip the corners before turning out to the right side. Be careful when you do this to avoid clipping into the stitching. Understitch close to the seam on the side of the facing. A couple of options here. You can do a stitch in the ditch to flatten the facings, and sometimes people like to do a contrasting top stitch just to add some design features to the bodice. With right sides facing, sew the front and back bodice and sleeve seams. Start sewing at the waist of the bodice, sew to the underarm, and continue sewing down to the sleeve opening. Finish with a zigzag stitch or overlocker. Have you ever thought about turning your hope woven dress into a hope woven top? Now's the time to do it. Congratulations, you've finished sewing the bodice of your hope woven dress. Now's the perfect time to take a well-deserved tea or coffee break before moving on to the next step, where we'll attach the skirt and complete your dress. We'd love for you to share your progress with us. Upload a photo of your hope woven dress so far and use the hashtag #SAHopeSewAlong to join the community. If you're ready to continue, head over to part 2, Hope Woven Dress, for the next steps. See you there.